So follow. So here the left hand side non-terminal is also C. So here we have to identify what is first of C. Okay, what is first of C? So here, so first of C equal to this, follow of C equal to this is first of beta. Okay, here here only alpha B, there is no alpha here, B and beta is there. So here we have to identify the, here this C mentioned as beta. So first of beta equal to first of C. So what is first of C? C comma D. So follow of C equal to dollar C comma D. Mention that. Okay. Now after identifying the first position and follow position, we have to construct the parsing table. That is our step 4. So for constructing the parsing table, the states should be represented in the column wise. So you see here how many states are there? I0, I1, I2, I3, I4, I5, I6. And in the row wise, you have to split this into two things. One is go to and action. So in go to, you have to mention the terminals, that is C, D, and dollar. And in the action, you have to mention the non-terminals S and C. Okay. Now, just expand this, derive this terminals with the state. Now you see here I0 comma terminal C equal to S3. How it is S3 means I0 comma terminal C is I3. So it is mentioned as S3, shift 3. So okay, if it produces the production rule mean, if it produces the state means it is mentioned as shift 3. Okay, so 0 I0 to C, that is S3. Now I0 to D, that is S4. Okay, the I4, that is S4. Now I0 comma S. What is I0 comma capital S? I0 comma capital S is I1. So mention it as, here we should not, for action we should not mention the shift or reduce operation. That's mention it as 1. I1. So we have mentioning as 1. Then I0 comma capital C, that is non-terminal C, you are getting I2. So mention it as 2. Okay. By default, for all the problems, I1, we cannot expand the things because I1 is the state which is containing the augmented production rule for the start symbol. So this augmented production rule is used for the accepting of the input string. So I1 comma dollar will always accept in all the problems. Okay. Then come to I2. So I2 comma, where is I2? Yes, here I2 comma non-terminal C equal to I5. So I2 comma non-terminal C equal to I5, mention it as 5 because it is an action operation. Then I2 comma terminal C is I3. Here I3 is mentioned as shift 3. I2 comma terminal C is shift 3. Then I2 comma D is shift 4. I2 comma D is shift 4. Now I3 comma non-terminal C is 6. So mention it as just 6. Okay. I3 comma terminal C is I3. So that is S3. I3 comma terminal D is I4. That is S4. Okay. Now perform the reduce operation for the terminals for the states I4, I5, I6. Why we are going to perform the reduce operation for state 4, 5, and 6 is, so you can see here for the state 4, the dot after the dot there is no element. For the state 5, after the dot there is no element. For the state 6, after the dot there is no element. So we should not consider I1 here, because I1 is a grammar we have additionally added, that is for the acceptance state. So we cannot perform the reduce operation for I1. So we have to perform the reduce operation only for I4, I5, and I6. How we can perform the reduce operation is, now we have to use the follow position what we have identified. Now I4 contains the production rule of C tends to D. I4 contains the production rule of C tends to D. C tends to D. What is the number for this production rule C tends to D? C tends to D is the third production rule. That's why I mentioned as 3 here. 3. Now we have to identify the follow of C. What is follow of C? Dollar C and D. So in the space of dollar C and D, mention it as R3. Okay. Then For I5, the number for this production rule is 1. Okay, then you have to identify the follow of yes. What is follow of yes? Dollar. So in the place of 5 and dollar, mention it as R1. Okay, so in some, as per the SLR parsing table, so we have to mention the reduce operation for all the columns. In some of the textbook, it will be mentioning the reduce operation for all the cells, but it is not necessary. But in some cases, it will be useful in passing the input string. Okay, then coming to the I6. So you see here, I6 is the production rule belongs to 2. Identify the follow of C. Follow of C is $CD. So in the space of CD and dollar, mention it as R2. Okay, so this is the construction of the SLR parsing table. So after constructing the SLR parsing table, we have to parse the input string. Okay, so we are taking the input string as CD, terminal C, terminal D, terminal C, terminal D. So this is the input string, and we were going to parse the input string. So for the parsing the input string, 3 components are required. One is stack, another one is input buffer, another one is action. The stack initial element will also always be dollar with the initial state 0, and the input buffer will be having the dollar at the end to indicate the end marker of the input. Okay, now you see here 0 and C. What is 0 and C? S3. S3 means shift. We have to perform the action as shift. So this C will be shifted to, this C will be mentioned to the top of the stack. Now 0 C, and what is the shift operation? The number 3. So this 3 will be mentioned here. Okay, now 3 and D. What is 3 and D? That is S4. Again, you have to perform the shift operation. So D will be shifted here, and S4, that 4 will be mentioned here. Now again 4 and C. 4 and C is reduce operation R3. So how we are going to, so we are going to reduce with the production rule 3, C tends to D. This D will be reduced with C. Now after this, so this D will be reduced with C. This 4 will be eliminated. Okay, while reducing this D. Now 3 and capital C. So you see here 3 and non-terminal C. What is 3 and non-terminal C? That is 6. That is mentioned here. Now 6 and terminal C. 6 and terminal C is R2. Again, reduce non-terminal C with second production rule, non-terminal C with terminal C and non-terminal C. So these up to this thing, it will be reduced with non-terminal C. $0 non-terminal C. Okay. Then 0 and non-terminal C is 0 and non-terminal C is 2. That is mentioned here. Now 2 and C. 2 and C is shift 3. So again, you have to perform the shift operation. This C will be shifted here with the number 3. Now 3 and D. 3 and D is again shift operation. S4 shift. So D will be shifted here and 4 will be mentioned here. Now 4 and dollar. 4 and dollar is reduce operation. We have to reduce with the third production rule. C tends to D. So now this D4 will be replaced with non-terminal C, and 3, this not 3 and non-terminal C is 6. Okay, now again 6 and dollar is reduce 2. That is, you have to reduce with the second production rule. Non-terminal C tends to terminal C and non-terminal C. So this both the things C terminal C and non-terminal C will be reduced by a non-terminal C. Now 2 and C. What is 2 and C? 2 and C is 5. 2 and C is 5. Now 5 and dollar is again reduce 1. That is production rule 1. S tends to CC. So these two things, non-terminal C2, non-terminal C5 will be reduced with the start symbol yes. Now 0 and S is 1. So okay, you see here 0 and S is 1. So 1, you mention the 1 here, 1 and dollar is accept. So this is what how to perform a SLR parsing for this particular input string. Now we have when I am summarizing this, so what are the steps? The first step is mention the augmented production rule, then finding the LR of 0 items. Then the third step is finding the first and follow, and the fourth step is constructing the SLR parsing table, and the step 5 is parsing the input string. Thank you.